All right, good afternoon. It is 4 o'clock on what started out as a rainy Wednesday, but was pretty beautiful outside right before we started. Today we're recognizing Hart County Public Schools. They are working hard to get these out before their in-person start date of September 28th. Appreciate their school spirit, keeping everybody safe, and for all those schools out there, keep them coming. We want to honor you if you are working to protect the safety of your students. We appreciate you. To all of our educators, we appreciate you. Oh, really, as a parent that tried to do just a little of it, we greatly appreciate both your skill and your tenacity. You are some of the best of Kentucky. Let's start today with our Fast Four to begin with. Number one is Kentucky State Parks. We've always known we have an amazing state park system, but as we've asked people not to travel outside of Kentucky, what they've done is rediscover what true gems that we have. Truly special places where I think we will see Kentuckians going more and more, and I can't wait until we have gotten past COVID and have people from all over seeing the very best of what we offer. But 5 Kentucky state parks have been recognized as part of Kentucky's Living Best in Kentucky Awards. My old Kentucky home, Green River Lake, Dale Hollow Lake, Cumberland Falls, and John James Audubon were featured as part of this year's Best in Kentucky virtual awards ceremony. So Dale Hollow Lake State Resort Park in Burkesville was awarded first place for golf course. Green River Lake State Park in Campbellsville was first place winner for a camping spot. My old Kentucky home, which I know we just had a picture of, State Park in Bardstown, is a new inductee into the Best in Kentucky Hall of Fame after being voted the #1 in designation of historical landmark museum site for 3 consecutive years. The park also received a second place award this year for Best Historic Site. Pretty neat. John James Audubon State Park in Henderson received second place for museum and third place for adventure. And Cumberland Falls State Park Resort near Corbin received second place for day trips. We are proud of all of these state parks, and in this time where we have looked closer to us to get away, to deal with some of our anxieties, to get back to nature, to have a little bit of fun, having these amazing state parks has been truly special. All right, back to the Fast Four. Second piece, vote. We're going to talk about this every day because it is that important. Remember, you have more ways to vote this year than ever before. If you're concerned about COVID-19, you can go online right now to request an absentee ballot. If you want to vote that way, go online now. Make sure you have enough time. You want to make sure your vote is counted. If you go voteky.com right now to request that absentee ballot, it'll get to you in plenty of time. You can get it back in plenty of time. Once they start coming out, and once I see mine, we'll talk about the steps you got to take, all the signatures you got to do to make sure that you get it back in perfect form so that we know that there are 0 issues. Number 3 on the Fast Four is Eastern Kentucky. We had a number of great announcements earlier today. We're not going to go through the full program, but right now we are making critical investments, oftentimes infrastructure investments, to make sure that we are not just competitive, but a leader as we come out of COVID-19 for new jobs, and to put the infrastructure, the designs, the work in so that we can recruit that next generation of employers. In Eastern Kentucky, we're focused on very significantly. We only succeed as a state if we all succeed. And with the impact to the coal economy, seeing the depopulation even in many areas of Eastern Kentucky, we have to do better. And so we were really excited about 4 announcements coming from the Appalachian Regional Commission funding and the Tennessee Valley Authority Regional Development Agency Assistance Program that we provided today. We started with Breathitt County, where the fiscal court there received a $708,000 $500 ARC grant for the South Fork Elkview Campground project. That's going to create adventure tourism, going to create a new draw to the area. This is some of the ingenuity we see when we have part of an economy collapsing to create new, great opportunities. Wayne County Fiscal Court, $153,846 for the second phase of their land acquisition project that deals with the Wayne County Industrial Park. We believe that we even have early interest from different folks out there to bring jobs, but you got to have that industrial park set with the space, with the utilities ready. You know, if you build it, they will come. It's exactly what we are doing in Wayne County. In Hazard, the Hazard Troublesome Creek Environmental Authority is going to use $500,000 for the Drone Port Water and Sewer Collection Project. This helps their drone port where they were years ahead of knowing that this technology is going to be used for everything from package delivery to important parts of advanced manufacturing to agri-tech. There's real vision that we are seeing in Perry County, and this is just another step to help move that forward. And finally, Hindman, and this is neat, I have the Appalachian Artisan Center there, very special place. It's $138,860, mainly for a program there that helps those that are dealing with addiction to learn skills, including guitar making. We got to see a lot of pictures of it today, but a whole lot of people out there not only being helped when they're suffering from addiction, but gaining skills, gaining a community, getting life back on track. We got the gentleman that runs the program came today. Talk about doing God's work in a really special way. It was very neat to see. Oh, there's some of it right there. And then coming soon, coming as early as tomorrow, we have additional announcements for Eastern Kentucky investments that we are really excited about. And we had some last week too. Denelli Corporation coming in to an abandoned AK Steel facility, creating new hope at a place that when you drove past hurt. A major employer no longer there. So really special things going on. So let's make sure we see the good and we see the hope during this time of crisis. All right, today we're going to jump right into the update and then turn to questions and then get out of here. So today, it's a tough report all the way around. Today we're reporting 816 new cases of COVID-19. It's not many days that we've had 800 back-to-back. 116 of today's 816 cases are kids 18 and under. We've had 18 new deaths. That means 36 deaths in the last 3 days that we're reporting. That happens when we have the number of cases we have in Kentucky. They may just seem like they're a number, but it's a very sad, simple equation. When we see total number of cases, you can even see the hospitalization rate, and then you can see the mortality rate. You know, we lose just under 2%. Right now, people who test positive for COVID-19. So on weeks where we have 4,000, that's 80 people. So let's make sure that we're doing better, even when we have a positivity rate that's below 5, and it's gone up today to 4.71%, but still below 5. Even when we have that, even when we have the dropping positivity rate, which is what we want to see and allows us to open up and do a little more, when we have this number of cases, we lose people. So let's make sure we're working harder. Of those 116 kids 18 years and under, and we have 12 in Warren County today alone, all between 11 and 18. 3 in Pulaski, 1 in Marshall, 1 in Graves, and all the rest will be up on the website. So contact tracers in these areas, we need you to be jumping on this, making sure that it doesn't spread to other kids and ultimately their caregivers. Remember, in Kentucky, we believe are still the highest state per capita of grandparents taking care of grandkids. So we have got to slow the spread of COVID in our children, which we're seeing more and more of. New cases by county today, Jefferson 215, Fayette 59, Warren 45, Kenton 35, Nelson 29, Madison 22, Scott, we're seeing more and more, 17, Boone 15, Greenup 14, continues to get hit. It's been on this list a lot recently. Davis 13, Jackson 12, Pulaski 12, Jessamine 10, and the rest will be on the website. It's very rare, even though I read the counties and the ages of those that we've lost, it's very rare that I got to read 18 of them in one day. So this is a harder day, but these folks are going to need your help. If you know the families, lend a helping hand, give them a call, do what you can to help with this difficult time. And if you've turned off that green light, if you hadn't put it out in a while, 36 people lost in the last 3 days is a pretty good reason too. This loss is all over the Commonwealth, so no matter where you are, somebody may need to see that you care. They include a 67-year-old male from Casey, a 97-year-old woman from Lincoln, a 99-year-old woman from Warren, a 77-year-old man from Martin, a 96-year-old woman from Warren, an 81-year-old woman from Todd, an 87-year-old woman from Christian, a 91-year-old woman from Perry, a 91-year-old woman from Casey, a 79-year-old woman from Fayette, a 65-year-old woman from Fayette, a 78-year-old woman from Todd, a 62-year-old woman from Todd, an 83-year-old man from Todd, a 79-year-old woman from Bell, a 78-year-old woman from Todd, a 43-year-old man from Oldham, 43, ooh, and an 82-year-old man from Ballard. And when you see a loss in Ballard County, you know, it shows you that it's truly everywhere, everywhere. Couple of the ways that we break the information down each day: long-term care facilities, 64 new residents, 42 new staff. That's some of the larger jump in the day-to-day that we've seen. 4 new resident deaths, 4 new facilities have had at least one case associated with them. K through 12 Kentucky schools, 33 new students, 12 new faculty or staff, and 26 new schools with at least one case associated with them. That is since the start. Some of those schools most of those schools aren't in in-person learning. Many of them have had everybody fully recover. Well, we say that. We don't know when people fully recover. And so the word recovered is something that we're looking at right now. We're seeing even really healthy folks, athletes, have difficulties persist even months after they are no longer infectious and after they've tested negative. And we've seen this myocarditis pop up in athletes and others. But if you go onto the website, you can look at the K through 12 numbers. It breaks it down very specifically about what's active and what's not, and you can get the very full picture from all of the data that we have. Colleges and universities, numbers going up. There's a lot of testing going on, which is good, but obviously we're all concerned when you have 137 new students, and that's just on this report. We've seen news out there. Remember, it makes the news before we get the full write-up that suggests that's going to be even higher. 2 new faculty or staff, same number of overall institutions. Let's make sure we give a little bit of credit to folks out there that are doing it right, and we need you to keep doing it right. Please, please wear a mask. And when we talk about wearing a mask, it baffles me about how this has become any type of argument, or people say it's become political. I've got a document from the White House saying that we ought to have a mask mandate. They send it to me every week. It says we ought to have a mask mandate. I have the #1 doctor on this appointed by the president telling me personally that we need a mask mandate, and it's working. So again, Democrats, Republicans agreeing, and what differentiates that group with other groups out there that might disagree is we actually have health experts. Some of the best in the nation, some of the best in the state. I've heard the comment that, oh, everybody's an epidemiologist, or you can find something to support you no matter what. No, everybody's not an epidemiologist. The actual epidemiologists are epidemiologists. This is not operating on you after being at a Holiday Inn. Just remember that these people have dedicated their lives to this. They have the knowledge for it, and let's listen to them. All right, some of those that are listening. Let's start out with right here. This is one of our JCPS teachers out there doing it right, masking up, showing his support for our Friskies, which do so much good work, and also Phi Beta Sigma. We appreciate him. All right, now we got a photojournalist down in Paducah. Randall Big R Barnes wins the day with his Disney princess mask. You know there's got to be, whether it's a daughter or a granddaughter out there that provided that one. Those of us with daughters, we have all lived through this stage and can name every single princess on that mask. And last, it's just pretty neat. This is our long-term care facilities trying to find opportunities for their residents, which are going to look just a little bit different. It looks like she has caught a great fish in this gone fishing, and you can tell there's a smile under that mask. We've talked a lot about, do you smile when somebody asks you to when you're wearing a mask? You can see it in the eyes. All right, with that, we will open it up for questions, and we will start over here. Nick?
Ordering a halt to all evictions through December. Obviously, this is also involves the CDC as well. I know CDC, you weren't happy with some of their moves last week. Your thoughts on this one?
So the question is about a order that appears to be coming out on Friday. There's a draft order that we saw last night where the CDC is going to halt residential evictions for a specific group of people, but it'll be a large amount of residential evictions. We're waiting to see the order, but we think that's going to answer the question in Kentucky. Well, there had been a lawsuit about my order staying the enforcement of evictions, but with the CDC coming out with their order, our belief is while there might be some things to argue on the margins, that's going to be that's going to be controlling. You know, I think that it's important that people are in their home to be healthy at home, and let's not overlook that while I've disagreed with the CDC on some of the new testing stuff, they are the Center for Disease Control. One thing that I want to make sure, though, is that just because the CDC puts something out and evictions can't occur, we still have a challenge for the business owners, especially those that are trying to do it right. But more than that, we have individuals that if we don't get in there now and start creating good resolutions, will come out of COVID with so much debt that they won't have a place to live, they won't have credit. I mean, it'll be hard to get life back up and going. So once we see the order on Friday, we will be making some changes in our Healthy at Home fund, $15 million. We don't plan on pulling that back. We're going to try to use that to create the very best outcomes we can with those around the state. I know Team Kentucky is also putting in some additional money. I know our community action councils, there is money. I believe Kentucky Housing Corporation has some money that's come down through HUD, and it's time for us to get in there and resolve as many of these as we can, even though the CDC looks like they're going to say no evictions through the end of the year. Stu?
The positivity rate, you reported yesterday, I think it was 4.4, 4.6 today. John Hopkins does a state-by-state breakdown, and they reported 8.4 yesterday. So I'm wondering where the difference lies.
So our rate today is 4.71%, just making sure that we got that accurate. The question is Johns Hopkins, and there are other groups online that will show higher or different positivity rates. My understanding of those websites is that they use automated search engines, for lack of a better term, to collect data when we regularly report it. But what they don't do, which we do, is go back each day and each week and audit the data so that we remove duplicates. For instance, today we removed, let me pull it back out, 10 duplicates from yesterday. The day before it was about the same, and it's all of that audit that changes what would be our numerator, the number of positive cases. So they pull a number that would include over time a significant number of duplicates. We think that that is the primary difference. We believe that our data is the only one where we've repeatedly gone through and checked for its accuracy. That doesn't mean that those websites aren't trying to put together good information that people can look at. We just believe ours is more accurate. Tom?
When you issued the first mask mandate, it was for 30 days, and I know it was extended, but how long has it been extended for?
It was extended another 30 days. I believe it goes through the 10th. I think that's right. So it's working. That we still have a lot of cases, and we still have a lot of cases, and we're about to do a lot more, especially as we come near the end of September. So it's going to be more important than ever that we wear them. And if we want to protect business, if we want to get our kids back in school, if we want to save lives, the number one thing we need to do is wear a mask, and the number two thing we need to do is stay 6 feet apart. So if you love Kentucky, you love all three of those things, you love America, wear a mask. So we expect to extend it after the 10th. And just about every state's doing it. And once again, for anybody who wants to try to create division, I was just reading where the president's administration is pushing Iowa to put in a mask mandate. That's a place where they're both of the same party, and one group, the presidential administration is pushing it there. The positivity rate in Iowa right now is, I mean, it's pretty scary.
Appalachian is reporting that the CDC is urging governors to speed up their permit applications, vaccine distribution ready by November 1st. And the record for vaccine is 4 years. This also happens to coincide with election season. Do you have any concerns that there might be some political motives here, and what are you doing to try to speed up this process?
The question is about vaccines, and I haven't seen news on speeding up a state process for November 1st. I believe that there is a lot of good work being done on vaccines right now, and you know I was critical of the CDC for what I think is really bad advice on testing recently, and they had good advice up to that. I was critical on the herd immunity statement from one official working for the president, but I do want to give this administration credit for all the work done to date on speeding up a vaccine. With that said, we don't expect it to be complete and ensured that it's safe until probably the beginning of next year. Now, that will still be a record. That'll still be a true feat of human ingenuity. And if it happens and if it's safe at the beginning of next year, my goodness, again, we've done something we've never seen in the history of mankind, but I do not expect it by November 1st. And there have been instances in the past where rushing a vaccine has caused harm to people. So normally it takes much longer than it's going to take here. They are already doing things to shorten it. Let's make sure that we don't do something reckless. But again, I say all that with giving the administration credit for the work that they've put in. Joe.
Kentucky's 7-day average of weekend cases is now 680, which is a record high. Yeah, it's gone up pretty steadily over the past 2 weeks. Are we still in a high plateau, or are we to the point where this is a spike?
The question is, are we still in a plateau, or is there a spike based on the 7-day average of total cases? So with where we are on our positivity rate, with what we are seeing in testing, I believe that we are still in a plateau. It does appear to be creeping up some. We'll see what this week has, but we're still really in the margins of the last 3 or 4 weeks where we could have more symptomatic people coming in I think we are still in that plateau, but we are creeping up, but we need to watch it. The spikes happen really fast, and certainly with new activities that we're about to do, we are in danger of having another spike. It's hard to say there's a positive for having this many cases, but if we have this many cases and we can get our positivity rate going down again, which it did not today, it went up, then it does mean we're finding more of the cases out there, and that would be a really good thing. So the best way to deal with this virus, and it's hard when there are this many cases, is if you can find everybody that's infected, everybody that's symptomatic and asymptomatic, and then take the steps to prevent it from being spread. I think we're doing a better job of that than many states, but we're in a dangerous place, no question.
The Governor issued new guidance about wearing a mask in schools, saying it's required regardless of whether you're 6 feet apart. Would you respond to that, and if you think it's a good idea, why is that a good idea?
So the Kentucky Department of Education and the Department for Public Health have issued new guidance for schools that require wearing masks while indoors, even if you are closer than 6 feet. This is something that we have learned because we haven't been the very first to open all of our school systems. We've watched others. We've seen instances where if it's not required at all times inside, that you see people, once they hit the hallways, with them off or down, not keeping them on the full time. You see them coming together for pictures. This is just one of the things that we have learned by making sure that we watch other folks make mistakes. And I think it's going to be critically important. What we've also seen is in schools, and we're starting to see this in real time, where there's a reported case and students are wearing the masks the whole time. We're not seeing as much spread as we might otherwise. And that's a real positive. The masks appear to be working, and Dr. Stack showed you one. I think it was a hair salon, a different example. And because of that, I think that this is a smart move that's going to help us be safer, especially when all of our students come back in. So yes, it's a little more stringent, but we got to sacrifice if we want to get our kids back to in-person learning. And my kids are certainly going to be wearing one that whole day. The question is primarily on SAA and the Board of Education, asking them to put out more specific guidelines, especially on fall sports. If we're going to play high-touch fall sports at a time when we have the most cases daily by just about any average than we've ever had in this virus, you'd think it's pretty reasonable for a Board of Education to say, what are your specific guidelines and plans to protect the student athletes? At a time when we have the SEC requiring 3 tests a week for their athletes to stay safe, what are we doing to make sure our high school athletes are safe? What is the enforcement mechanism to ensure that the practices are followed? What is the punishment if not? Because I can tell you when oftentimes when there's not, people will just go back to doing things the way that they always have. The Board of Education, it's their job to oversee all this, and for them to say, if we're going to do this, you at least need to do it right and do it carefully. I'd hope everybody can get behind. I certainly hope that whoever sent the other letter, House Republicans or the rest, aren't saying, let's not start high-touch sports, let's do no social distancing, let's use the locker rooms, nobody get tested. I mean, let's not be reckless about it. It's going to move forward. Let's be as careful as we can be. And it's going to take some discipline. I keep talking because I see it about youth baseball, when we know that every spread associated with youth baseball has involved a dugout, why the heck are teams still going in the dugout? So let's just be smart. Stu. The question is yesterday, I think Senator Julie Rocky Adams suggested a special session to deal with racism and police reform. I think those were her words. I want to make sure that I got that. And my response was, if we have good, agreed upon pieces of legislation where we're not calling people here with no deal where it could cost taxpayers $60,000 a day without an end date. But if we can have good pieces of legislation that bring communities together, that address systematic racism, which exists in all parts of our society, that ensure that there are good police practices while the police can stay safe. At the same time, I keep thinking that if we could just learn, and that's all we're looking for, if we can just learn from different things that have been done, and we can all do a better job, and there's ways to put that into legislation, then good. Now, I haven't seen any piece of legislation, and I don't think that any one specific piece was suggested at the Senate Republicans press conference yesterday. But my senior advisor met with Senate leadership today, specifically talked about this and said, we've been working on some things. Why don't you all also send the specific topics that you think that you would be open to moving forward on? Now, we got to make sure if we go there, though, that we include everybody. And this conversation can't occur without representation from the communities that are hurting, representation from other areas that will be impacted. So, at least the dialogue has started, and my hope is that we can see some progress on it. But if we can make some real lasting change that is positive and brings everybody together, I'm all for it. I think this fall could be an option, but again, I haven't seen a piece of legislation from those that proposed it, and I haven't even seen a topic list yet. That doesn't mean it's not coming, but it's really hard to talk about the possibility of it without a little more specifics. But they just mentioned it for the first time yesterday, and we've already had a conversation about it today. Tom?
Yes, today, is that a record?
I think we have had on 2 occasions more than 18. I believe so, but we will check on that. If 18 is not a record, it's pretty close to it. 18 deaths today hurt, and sadly, I think we're going to have a lot more days like today. We have a number of them from a single facility in Kentucky that are going through the process, and so we know that there aren't just the ones that we'll have reported in the next couple days, that our committee has a number of others as well.
Are you comfortable with LMPD's plan regarding Doherty on Saturday? Are they respecting that groups like Senator and FAC who said they intend on coming will be armed?
The question is, am I comfortable with the plan that LMPD has for the Derby? I was briefed on that plan today. I believe that LMPD has put together a very thoughtful plan to give people the opportunity to express their First Amendment rights, but require that they do so safely. We've got laws in Kentucky that allow for individuals to be armed at those protests or demonstrations, and so I anticipate that you will see some of that, but I do believe that many of the organizations that I know are going to be involved have held very peaceful demonstrations, even when there is a desire to be arrested, has done it in a very peaceful and organized way. And so I anticipate that while there is a lot of consternation or anxiety coming into this weekend, that the professionals both that those that are running some of the organizations that are going to be demonstrating and LMPD have all been very professional, for the most part, communicating with each other. I have been impressed, especially at the last couple major demonstrations, about the communication ahead of time. I think that that's been very smart and thoughtful by everybody. And you know what? If you can have a dialogue about something like that, I hope that we can go, as time evolves, a little deeper.
Have you read Representative Attica Scott's Breonna's law that she filed a while back on no-knock warrants and body cams?
I have Representative Scott's draft legislation on my desk. I have not gotten through all of it. But yesterday, when this talk was of a special session, and I mentioned that the Senate President has said he's worked on a no-knock warrant, I wanted to make sure I mentioned Attica Scott's, Representative Scott's, because on a topic like this, we've got to make sure that that her voice is heard. And that we look very carefully at the proposals that she has made, and that we listen to everybody involved. But Representative Scott is somebody that it's important would have a major role in a special session on this topic. Lawrence?
Extended unemployment payments will go out.
Oh, extended unemployment payments. Let me get you an update on that. Our hope was to have that up and running right here at the beginning of September. I don't have an update on the date, but we should be getting close to it. The challenge, the reason that it took a couple weeks at least from when we announced that we were going to do it, is it's not the same system as that previous 600. And so every time there is a change in how the money flows in, we got to build a new part of a system in a database that is 20 years old.
Have you noticed any significant trends in the number on testing lately? And have you been giving out fewer tests, more tests, and how that reflects on the positivity rate?
So the question is on testing and trends in general. Our trends here in Kentucky have been pretty positive. In many states across the nation, we are seeing a reduction in testing. It could be for two reasons. One, it's harder to get supplies to certain platforms, or two, fewer people wanting to get tested. We are still at least holding steady most of the time at a significant testing threshold. So with the positivity rate as it is, where our testing has creeped up. So we're doing a better job of finding a lot of those asymptomatic cases too. One of the reasons that there are more tests right now too are universities doing a lot of it, and other groups that are restarting doing some of their own testing. So we talk a lot, because we're the state, about the state's testing, but when you look at how many tests UK and others have done, they impact the positivity rate too. But there are things that I'm really worried about. I'm worried that people are at that point kind of at the start of summer, Memorial Day, where they're letting their guard down. But there are things that I'm really proud of Kentuckians about too, and one of those includes still going to get tested and not falling off like other states. So let me end where we are. Two quick questions. What's the outcome of today's hearing regarding the federal lawsuit dealing with evictions? The judge put a pause on it until we could see Friday's order from the CDC. And what are my thoughts about COVID-19 positive college students being quarantined in hotel rooms? We talked about this a little yesterday, that there's not an easy answer between send them home and keep them on campus. The keeping them on campus, not sending them home, your risk is that they break quarantine and go out. They're young. You can see that happening. The concern is if they go home, where you'll have more parental supervision, that sends that COVID positive out to another community where it can spread. Hotels are something we were looking at for those that are positive. It is a potential way to get those students out of the main part of campus where it could spread. And so that's something that I'd want to look at, but it's also something that we considered at different times for other individuals. So we're 6 months. 6 months into dealing with this virus. 6 months, and we're about to hit 50,000 cases. 6 months, and we're coming up on 1,000 deaths. This isn't the flu. It is a serious, aggressive, deadly virus, and we're not likely to ever see anything like this again in our lifetime if the past patterns hold true. So it means that it is our challenge, and whether we rise to it is the difference of life and death of so many. And remember, we are seeing long-term effects of this virus that we won't know about fully until probably we've defeated it. So I want everybody to remember it's real. And the goofy conspiracy theories out there, you just can't listen to them. It's not going away after an election. It's not related to an election at all. This is something that happens once every 100 years that has wiped huge numbers of people out in the past. It's our job to make sure it doesn't right now. And thus far in Kentucky, we avoided that early spike that took so many lives in a state like New York. We've avoided what we have seen in Florida and Texas and Alabama, which is taking so many lives later in the virus. But there are other states that are starting to spike or are spiking now. This isn't one where we get to declare victory prematurely, either for not being what happened in New York or for not being thus far what happened in Florida. The fact is that this battle is going to go on until that vaccine is safe and until it can get out there to everybody. And I don't want to have what happened in any of those states happen here at any time during this. So we need you to have your game faces on. We need you to continue to do the right things. We can't get tired because other people pay when we do. And this weekend, I need you to keep your gathering small, 10 or less, and that includes Oaks, that includes Derby, that includes Labor Day weekend. You can do it with different 10 people. Spread it out, and that means you get to see about 30 people. But this is the only year we're asking you to do that, and it's in the middle of a pandemic. I'm going to be doing it too. You know, I made a decision that since you can't be out doing things that you want to, I shouldn't be either. I've tried to live by these rules too. So please, let's not look back and say something as special as what this weekend can be turned into the time when this virus got out of control. All right, we'll be back at 4 p.m. tomorrow, and then our next live update will be that following Monday. So everybody stay safe. Oh, next update will be the following Tuesday.